Jin-Woo wondered if Iron could talk because he was his shadow soldier, or if he had been able to speak before. Jin-Woo shook his head. No, that wasn't the case. Iron, once a hunter named Chul Kim, lost his voice when he became Jin-Woo's loyal knight. Byong-woo was just like the others before him. He went back to the void without saying a word. Fang, who used to be super chatty as a magic beast, had stopped talking completely after becoming a shadow soldier, so why could this one talk? There was only one big difference between him and the others: their rank. The other soldiers were either elite knights or regular knights, but this shadow soldier was something never seen before, a general rank. That's weird, right? Suddenly having a high-ranking shadow soldier who could talk was pretty interesting. Jin-Woo had an idea. He thought that his shadow soldiers might gain the ability to speak once they reach a certain rank. It wasn't proven yet, but it was his best guess.
This gave him another reason to focus on boosting their ranks.
Curious about something, he decided to ask one of the soldiers, a small ant, something that had been on his mind. "I'm the one who killed you," Jin-Woo said. The soldier stayed silent for a moment before responding in a way Jin-Woo didn't expect at all. "I didn't die. I was reborn, by my master's power." The shadow soldier lifted its head, revealing a hint of determination. He locked eyes with Jin-Woo, and kept going. "Inside me now, there's this overwhelming happiness. From now on, I'll only follow my master forever." Thump thump. 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 Why was Jin-Woo's heart pounding like that? Was it because he could feel how genuine the shadow ant's words were, as the shadow swore its eternal loyalty? Jin-Woo's heart raced so much he had to press a hand against his chest to calm it down. His heartbeat settled back to normal. The shadow soldier dipped his head again. "My king, please, give me a name," he urged Jin-Woo. It felt strange because usually the system was the one asking him for names, not one of his own soldiers. Jin-Woo hadn't really thought about naming his shadow warriors before. He already had a bunch named Ant, so calling this one Ant wouldn't feel right. It didn't sound important enough for a general, so he took a moment to think and then smiled. "Baru," he said. The name came from a famous French author who wrote about an empire of ants. Jin-Woo didn't overthink it. "Your name is Baru," he said firmly. Baru bowed even lower, his gratitude clear. "Thank you, master." The text above his head changed to reflect the new name. Baru, general rank. Jin-Woo felt proud of how official it sounded. Now that Baru was named, it was time to focus on the queen. The shadow extraction from the queen went off without a hitch, and Jin-Woo felt a big confidence boost after successfully summoning Baru. "Arise," Jin-Woo commanded. Uskari. A shadow beast identical to the queen erupted with an ear-piercing screech. "Nice." Jin-Woo was about to celebrate when he noticed something odd. As soon as the queen's shadow appeared, the connections between him and his shadow ant soldiers started to fade, like fog smothering the lines that linked them together. Before Jin-Woo could even call out Baru's name, Baru was already by his side. Uskari. If not for Jin-Woo's heightened perception stat, he wouldn't have been able to keep up with Baru's lightning-fast movements at all. For such a beast to now be Jin-Woo's loyal soldier, Jin-Woo's confidence grew. "Do you know what's happening here?" Jin-Woo nodded toward the queen with his chin. Baru knew more about how the ants worked than any of Jin-Woo's other soldiers. Baru stood up straight as he replied, "The queen is in charge of the ant army. That's her special power." So this meant the control of the ants had instantly shifted to the queen. Jin-Woo felt a little annoyed by the situation, even though the queen still answered to him. Jin-Woo frowned, realizing he couldn't just boss everyone around. He tapped his chin thoughtfully. "Why is the queen's magic weaker?" he asked. Baru explained that most of her power was for making babies, which needed a real body. Jin-Woo's eyes lit up as it clicked. Her magic was now half, so she wasn't useful anymore. In the end, Jin-Woo decided to let the queen go free. Why keep someone who wasn't pulling their weight in his army? Skiri. The queen's shadow puffed away like smoke on the wind. Number of shadows stored, 570. He'd already hit max capacity for his shadow soldiers. All that was left now was to collect those essence stones. Jin-Woo scanned his surroundings, ready for whatever came next. The beach was covered in super rare essence stones, the kind you only find in S-rank dungeons. They were scattered everywhere like regular rocks. Jin-Woo could have taken them all for himself, but he didn't. He knew these stones were meant to help the people who had been hurt and fix Jeju Island. Jin-Woo wasn't desperate enough to claim something that didn't belong to him. Still, he thought, I can take this one, can't I? He carefully removed the gem from Baru's body. It was a stunning black essence stone that shimmered like a jewel. Jin-Woo slipped it into his pocket and summoned Kaisel. Carry! Kaisel let out a loud screech as he spread his wings, ready to fly. Jin-Woo climbed onto Kaisel's back and looked around the queen's den. It was quiet now, not like the noisy place it used to be. The adventure on Jeju Island had finally ended. Let's go home, Jin-Woo said. With a roar, Kaisel shot up into the sky. All eyes on Jin-Woo. Kaisel landed in front of the Hunters Association building. People were everywhere, talking and rushing around. This was where hunters gathered, always busy with something. The members of the association were stunned as they rushed out of the building. Right in front of them, in the heart of Seoul, stood an enormous magical beast. The creature had just landed, and everyone was in shock. The surveillance team hunters who had been tracking this powerful being were ready to fight, their weapons at the ready. Then something even more surprising happened. Jin-Woo stepped off the beast, leaving everyone in awe. Return, Jin-Woo ordered, and Kaisel instantly melted back into his shadow. People recognized Jin-Woo right away. Wait a minute. Wasn't that Hunter Sung's minion? Someone whispered. Is he really controlling a monster like that? Others couldn't believe their eyes. They had seen what Jin-Woo could do on TV, but this was beyond anything they had imagined. To them, it seemed totally normal that Jin-Woo would be in charge of a magic beast, too. Jin-Woo spotted someone he knew, a hunter from the surveillance team, who often worked with President Go. I need to see the president, Jin-Woo said. But President Go wasn't someone you could just drop by and visit. Even government officials had to wait at least a week for a meeting with him. But how could you say no to this man? He was a hunter who showed up out of nowhere during a raid he wasn't even part of. Then he took down a magic beast that was killing S-rank hunters left and right. Plus, the president of the Hunters Association would definitely want to meet him too. The subordinate told him. The president is at the hospital right now. Is he sick? Jin-Woo asked. He remembered that President Go hadn't been in great health lately. Jin-Woo's heart condition might have gotten worse because of the raid broadcast. No, he went to check on Hunter Chaz. Jin-Woo said with a nod. He realized he probably wouldn't get to see President Go today. The subordinate stopped Jin-Woo before he could leave. I'll call him for you. Please wait in the reception room for a moment. Great, thank you. Jin-Woo felt relieved and stayed behind, hoping everything would work out smoothly. Tannen couldn't wait any longer. He had something urgent to share with President Go. Earlier, Tannen had been admitted to the Hunters Association official hospital. Now President Go was eagerly waiting for news about her condition. When the doctor arrived, President Go immediately asked, "How is she doing?" The doctor replied, "We haven't finished all the tests yet, but so far, everything looks okay." "She's resting comfortably now," said the president. "I see." President Go nodded. But he already knew everything. Hein's condition was strange to the doctor, who had watched the raid right next to President Go. Her face was pale from losing so much blood, and it was confusing how Hunter Chat could recover so well. The president had gotten a detailed report from her fellow hunters, but didn't share it with the doctor. Even if he told the truth, would the doctor believe him? Would anyone believe that Jin-Woo healed Hein using the power of a deceased healer? It sounded like something out of a fantasy story, and the president wondered if the doctor would think he was crazy. Jin-Woo had asked to turn off the camera to keep his ability a secret, and President Go knew better than to share that info. The other hunters agreed with this plan too. President Go mentioned, "My top healers were ready and treated her," he added. It was really touch and go for a moment, but luckily everything worked out. The doctor seemed to trust what President Go was saying. Then the doctor suddenly remembered something. About Hunter Sung. Jin-Woo's name caught President Do's attention. The president's eyes snapped toward him, sharp with curiosity. "What about him?" he asked firmly. The doctor didn't waste any time. "You know his mother was a patient here, right?" he said quickly. President Go nodded. He had read up on Jin-Woo's family when the association looked into him. She had the eternal sleep disease. "Correct?" he asked, his voice steady but serious. The doctor agreed. "Yes." For a moment President Go imagined the worst. His expression turned grim. Did she pass away?" he asked, his tone softer now. The doctor shook his head, leaving the question hanging in the air. Wait. The exact opposite happened. What are you talking about? She woke up from her coma and was sent home right away. That true. Everyone at the hospital was totally blown away by it. They didn't make any official announcement, but since it all went down here, word got around fast. It turned out the hospital staff had seen the live stream too, so Jin-Woo's name was on everyone's lips. That's how the doctor ended up hearing about Jin-Woo's mom, so she recovered from the eternal sleep disease. Is that even possible? One of them asked. As far as I know, this is the first case, the doctor replied. President Go's eyes lit up like a light bulb. He was finally piecing together the puzzle. When did Hunter Sung's mother wake up? He asked suddenly. The doctor thought for a moment. I think it was about 5 days ago. President Go nodded. Putting it all together, that was right around the time he had invited Jin-Woo to join the raid team. Now everything made sense. Hunter Sung's father had disappeared in a gate. Right? His mother had lost her husband during a dangerous mission. And now Jin-Woo would have had to leave his recovering mom to go on this high-risk raid. It was a mission that had failed 3 times before. No wonder Jin-Woo decided not to join. President Go felt bad for not understanding Jin-Woo's situation sooner. But now, seeing how things worked out, he couldn't help but feel super relieved. Everything was cleared up, and Jin-Woo's decision made perfect sense. Jin-Woo was one of those guys you don't meet every day, a rare find in today's world. President Go had grown really fond of him. Just then, an employee from the association stepped up. Sir, he said quietly. What's up? President Go asked. It's about Hunter Min's family. Sir, President Go raised an eyebrow. What do you mean? They're not answering our calls. The employee replied. You mean his mom? Oh, that man nodded. Yes, ma'am. Well, that made sense. After all, her son's death had been announced on national TV. Her voice shook when she called the group. They had to tell her he had passed away. I'll go see her myself. Someone said, You're going there in person. Another person asked. His mom lost her son, and they can't even hold a proper funeral, because, well, there's no body. How do you think she'll handle getting this news over the phone? But I should go in person to offer my support and explain what happened with the raid. Understood, sir, came the reply. Just then, an employee who looked really serious was about to step out when the phone rang. The call was from the association, so they picked up after getting President Go's okay. Wait, someone wants to see President Go. What? He does. President Go shook his head. I don't want to meet anyone today. The employee covered the phone with their hand. Sir, the person asking to see you is Hunter Sung. Hunter Sung. President Go's eyes widened in surprise and he took back what he just said. Tell them I'm on my way right now. An employee walked Jin-Woo to the president's office. Jin-Woo sat down. Would you like a drink? The employee asked. Jin-Woo was about to say no, but then he realized how thirsty he actually was. He hadn't had a drop of water after that intense battle. Some water, please. Thank you. The employee said. Jin-Woo wondered why they were thanking him. The nervous employee's face turned bright red after making a mistake. They quickly placed a small water bottle in front of Jin-Woo and bowed deeply. Let me know if you need anything else, they said nervously. Okay, Jin-Woo replied with a slight smile, trying to make the employee feel better. He noticed that this time, the employee seemed extra careful and attentive way more than before. I guess it's because of the broadcast. Jin-Woo thought to himself. People had probably seen him on TV, so now they were treating him differently or staring at him more. Just then, President Go walked into the room. Hunter Sung, he said, but Jin-Woo didn't stand up right away. President Go motioned for him to stay seated. Jin-Woo had just gotten back from Jeju Island, and he was still settling in. Jin-Woo had just battled a giant terrifying monster ant that nearly wiped out their top S-rank hunters. Now he was like a superstar. After saving everyone, President Go wanted to treat Jin-Woo as an equal. Instead of sitting at the head of the table, he sat right across from him. I heard about what happened in that cave. President Go said with a grin. Jin-Woo nodded. Yeah, it was crazy. President Go chuckled. Well, let's make this quick. And with that, their conversation took off. A grin spread across Jin-Woo's face when President Go said, And I also heard all about your journey here. Lots of people from the association had spotted Kazel. So word got back to President Go pretty quickly. The president leaned in curiously and asked, Did you ride that beast all the way to Jeju Island? Jin-Woo didn't see any reason to spill all the details, especially since he'd actually used Shadow Exchange to get there. He carefully picked his words, keeping some secrets to himself. Something like that, Jin-Woo said with a grin. He had basically just admitted to being the one behind the magic beast spotted in the skies over Seoul a few days ago. But this little confession would definitely make it easier for him to ride Kaisel whenever he wanted in the future. President Go nodded, his expression serious but satisfied. I see, he said. Just as I thought, Jin-Woo could use the powers of dead magic beasts. If he could slay a flying magic beast, it made sense that he could use it to get around. Now that his curiosity was settled, President Go was ready to focus on business. I heard you wanted to meet with me, the visitor said. Yes? May I ask why? I took care of those ants on Jeju Island. What? What? President Go jumped out of his chair in surprise. Wait. Are you telling me you wiped out every last one? Jin-Woo nodded, his voice steady and confident. You can go to Jeju Island now without any worries. President Go looked stunned. How? But he had a pretty good idea how Jin-Woo had pulled it off. People had seen Jin-Woo's followers on cameras all over the island. They were everywhere. With that many minions they could sweep the entire island and take out those ants in no time. Now, people could finally return to Jeju Island. This meant they could finally retrieve Byung-gu's body, which was deep inside the ant cave. President Go had been really upset because they couldn't bring back Byung-gu's body until the ants died out in about a year. But now, hearing they might get it sooner, tears filled his eyes. Thank you, Hunter Sung, President Go said with heartfelt gratitude. Meanwhile, news of the raid on Jeju Island had blown up everywhere, and no one noticed that the world's strongest hunter was chilling in a fancy suite at one of Korea's most luxurious hotels. Thomas turned off the TV special about the raid. Thomas had watched the video several times, trying to make sense of it. Laura, who was traveling with him, asked, "What do you think?" Thomas shrugged, looking puzzled. "I'm not sure," he admitted. The man in the footage had blonde hair and a sharp nose. He wore sunglasses indoors, which seemed odd, and had a constant smile that made him look friendly yet mysterious. Laura leaned forward. "Is this the guy Mr. Hong was investigating?" she asked. Thomas nodded, and didn't Dong-soo once ask what would happen if someone killed a man in Korea? Thomas had looked into both Dong-soo and Jin-Woo on his own after Laura shared her reports. He wanted to understand more about their stories, and what might happen next. There was one link between them. Dong-soo's older brother, Dong-sook. Both Dong-sook and Jin-Woo had ventured into the same dungeon, but only Jin-Woo came out alive. Dong-sook vanished, leaving no trace. Everyone knew weird stuff happened inside dungeons. Revenge, someone asked. Looks like it, another person replied. I didn't think Mr. Huang had any family. He never said a word about it. Rumor has it Mr. Huang's older brother went out of his way to hide their connection. That made people raise an eyebrow. Guess he was mixed up in something shady, someone muttered. Whatever it was, it must have been big enough to ruin Dong-soo's reputation, if it ever came out. Laura's silence said it all. She agreed. But then came the surprise attack on Jeju Island, which threw everything off track. This makes getting a meeting with Jin-Woo Sung even tougher, someone noted. You're right, Laura said quietly. Thomas was not just any hunter. He was one of the best in the world, and led the famous scavenger guild. He had even taken his own vacation days to come to this small country because of Jin-Woo Sung. To be honest, he was curious about what would happen if Dong-soo faced off against Jin-Woo. He told the guild managers he was here to recruit a top S-rank Korean hunter. That's too bad. Thomas said sadly. I really wanted to meet him. Laura asked carefully. Don't you think it's better if Mr. Huang never met Hunter Sung? Thomas smiled, and rubbed his chin thoughtfully. Well, he said, Korea saved Mr. Huang's life. South Korea wouldn't let Mr. Huang back into the country, because he had left it behind when he first became an S-rank hunter in America. This was shaping up to be a big problem that could turn into an international mess, so Thomas came to Korea to figure out what was going on. But here's the thing, Dong-soo Hong wasn't the kind of guy to throw in the towel, just because he couldn't come back to Korea, especially not when revenge was involved. Dong-soo had a score to settle. Thomas, on the other hand, was super adaptable. He rolled with the punches and didn't get stressed easily, even when things got complicated. Thomas didn't want to make Dong-soo mad by stopping him from avenging a family member's death. But Dong-soo was also super important to the scavenger guild. Since both Jin-Woo and Dong-soo were Surinks, Thomas wanted to test how strong Jin-Woo was. just in case things went south. If Dong-Su lost, that would be a big problem. Luckily they'd already seen Jin-Woo in action, which made Thomas feel better. We can't let Mr. Hung set foot in Korea, he said firmly. Those two can't meet. Diggs, I get it. I'll stop all the legal stuff too. I'll talk to Hong. I'll make up some excuse since he's super stubborn. Laura wrote down everything her boss said. But one thing made her curious. What if those two end up fighting even after we try to stop them? What would you do? Thomas smiled confidently. You know I've got this, right? Mr. Wong is super important to the Scavenger Guild, and that guild is totally under my control. Thomas's mouth curved into a smile, but his eyes behind the sunglasses were as serious as ever. He never took them off because they hid how intense his gaze could be. Leaning forward on the couch, he dropped his voice to a whisper. Hands off, he growled, making it clear that no one should mess with what was his. Not even the American government, Thomas Andre said. He was one of 5 top hunters in the country, and his strength represented his nation's power. We'll walk you home, Hunter Sung, President Go said quickly as Jin-Woo started to stand up. Huh? Jin-Woo replied, just wait a minute. President Go continued, and we'll have someone bring a car around for you. Why don't you let us drive you home? Jin-Woo appreciated the kind offer from President Go and the Hunters Association for what he'd done. But he didn't want them to go through so much trouble over something so small. His place wasn't that far, and it wasn't worth borrowing a car just for that short trip. Jin-Woo politely turned down the president's offer. No, thank you. I'm good. President Go scratched his head. I think it would be better if you took the car. What do you mean? Jin-Woo asked. Instead of answering, President Go walked over to the window. If you would, he said, motioning for Jin-Woo to join him. Jin-Woo followed, curious about what was going on. That's when Jin-Woo saw what was waiting for him. The entrance of the association's headquarters had been super quiet just an hour ago, but now it was totally packed with people. All those people came after hearing about your visit, someone said. Jin-Woo didn't need to ask how they knew. I mean, he did ride Kazel to get here, right? And these days pretty much everyone has a camera on them. No wonder the news spread so fast. Footage of Jin-Woo stepping off Kazel at the Hunters Association blew up on social media, and before long, those images caught the attention of journalists. All it took was one short article to stir up a lot of buzz. The headline read, Magic Beast Spotted at Hunters Association. Who's the owner? The article described the creature as nothing ordinary, a shadowy black being that didn't look like any typical monster. It also pointed out how different Kazel seemed compared to the minions Jin-Woo usually summoned, hinting that this mysterious beast might just belong to the new S-rank hunter everyone was talking about. The crowd in front of the association was buzzing. Some were there to check out the rumors they'd heard, while others just wanted to catch a glimpse of Jin-Woo himself. Seeing so many people gathered made Jin-Woo feel a mix of emotions: surprise, excitement, and maybe even a little nervousness. President Go stepped forward, looking out at the sea of faces. He spoke in a calm, steady voice. As you all know, we Koreans have been waiting a long time for a victory. His words reminded everyone of the heartbreaking event that had happened 4 years ago, an event that still felt fresh in their minds.